each particular quarter, um, first I'd like to welcome everybody to the Sovereign Grand Commanders quarterly webinar, which each quarter topics are given to help benefit both the community as well as organizations and in different walks of life. On this particular night, we have a presenter who hails from Mitchellville, Maryland, by the name of Mr. Kelvin Moultrie. During our webinar tonight, we're going to ask everyone to please make sure that your devices are muted, as well as if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free during the presentation to offer your question to our presenter we have on tonight. But also, before we get started and I present the presenter we have on our webinar, I would like to recognize our Sovereign Grand Commander of the United Supreme Council, Dr. Corey D. Hawkins Sr., Esquire. And also on tonight, we have our presenter who is both enthusiastic and result-driven financial service professional who has over 30 years of managerial and hands-on experience at leading provider of financial services in the corporate, for nonprofit, academic, research, medical, and services in the government fields. He's a builder of many corporate nonprofit partnerships and high performing teams, which is dedicated to leading and motivating colleagues and reports to attainment of sales targets. Our presenter, Mr. Moultrie, is known for his exceptional oratorical skill with over 500 presentations on both financial health and best practice that's used for diversity, equality, and inclusion to several universities, human resource professionals, faculties, client staff, and college students. Our presenter on tonight is no other than Mr. Kelvin Moultrie, and I ask you all to please give him your attention.
Thank you, Deputy Hampton. I had no idea I had done so much, but I appreciate you nonetheless. Let me just share my screen with you all. All right. All right, so can you all see that? So what I wanted to do was discuss some really basic but essential tips for establishing a financial plan. Now, understand this is an extremely broad topic, and it's also a very specific topic because it's broad because it encompasses so many different aspects, but it's specific because each and every one of us would have our own financial plan. But for the purpose of this discussion, I am going to make it concise. I'm going to focus on just a few essential areas with regards to financial planning that really are appropriate and applicable to each and every one of us, regardless of our stage in life, our career stage, or even our economic condition. But before we get started, I wanted to read you this disclosure here that I just put together. So this presentation is intended for educational and informational purposes only. The content that I'm going to share this evening, it's going to reflect general financial planning principles and should not be interpreted as personalized financial advice. In a nutshell, I could get in a whole bunch of trouble if I actually am giving you advice and I'm not serving in that capacity. So, as I stated before, I wanted to really make this discussion a lot more concise than the broad topic of financial planning. So, I'm really going to focus on some key areas, some of the things that are actually preventing many of us from relieving ourselves of financial burden, ways of eliminating or really structuring our mindset in terms of developing a financial plan. Where do we start? The first thing that I often tell folks is to establish what your financial goals are. Now, the financial goals, very few, if any of us, have one financial goal. Our financial goals are going to be short term, intermediate, long term. So, short term, establishing an emergency fund, paying off credit card debt. Those are two examples, and we're going to talk more about those two in particular shortly. Intermediate or midterm goals, buying a new house, funding a child's education, and then long-term goal, of course, would incorporate retirement planning, estate planning. Um, but the after you've assessed your goals and you stated your goals, it is crucial that you take inventory of where you are financially. So you have to, I'm a pen and paper guy. I'm really old school. They have different programs now that, you can actually go online and plug in the figures, whatever works best for you. But you'd want to look at your salary. You'd want to look at what you're bringing in to your household or into your bank account every single month. You would also include any passive income. So if you happen to be a rental owner and you're renting out properties, that rental income is considered to be passive income because even if you decide not to get out of bed that morning and go to work, you're still going to get that rental income, God willing, that you don't have any squatters. But um, all of those things are going to be counted towards your income. You're going to look at what your liabilities are. I have a quick story. I promise you it's quick. It is not uncommon for someone to give me a call out of the blue and they'll say something along the lines of, Kevin, I have an extra couple $1,000s that I want to invest. Um, what do you suggest? I tend to chuckle a little bit because I'm convinced that they don't really have an extra couple $1,000s, and I'm going to show them why. So I usually will ask, well, tell me about your debt. What do you owe every month? Well, I have a mortgage. My wife and I just bought a new vehicle, just bought new vehicles, plural. So we have a couple of car notes that we're paying. We took out some loans to take care of our daughter's college education, so we're paying those back. We also have some back taxes from 2022, so we're on a payment plan with the IRS. I'm thinking, oh my God, could you please just stop right now? But they continue on, and then they'll say, well, I also have some credit card debt that I'm trying to pay down or reduce. And I listen to key words that people say. So when he said uh, credit card debt trying to pay down versus pay off, those are key elements for a finance person. And so my this is actually a true story, but even though I'm making it general, this did in fact happen. So my response to them was, it sounds like you have a lot, but what it does not sound that you have is an extra $2,000, because that credit card debt alone, you're probably paying close to 20% in interest on whatever the balance is, and we didn't get into how much was owed on that, but there was a lot of debt that he was not considering. So that so-called extra 2000 to invest, that's another key word. Invest to me means that you have money that you can afford to lose. That's what invest means. Now, if you want to save, that's a whole different story. But invest, no one wants to ever lose any money. There are good investments, there are bad investments. But when you say invest, you're saying that you can afford to lose that money. Don't want to, but that's what your mind should be leaning towards. So keep that in mind as we continue on. But your expenses. You have monthly healthcare expenses. You may have utilities. You may have life insurance that you're paying off, and then you'd also want to take into account your assets. So your properties, your investments, those Rolex watches that you have in the safe. All of those things are going towards your assets. We talked about it before. Um, when you're looking at a financial plan, one of the things that hampers so many of us is credit card debt. Another quick story. I tend to tell stories as I'm talking, so I hope you don't get offended by it. But by the end of my freshman year of college, I had three visas, a MasterCard, an American Express, and a mobile gas card. I didn't have a car, but yet I had a mobile gas card and all of these other things. And I had no clue as to what I was doing because I was a freshman all of these various banks were just offering me the ability to get unsecured credit cards, and I'm jumping at it and going to different malls and buying this and buying that, really with no inclination because it wasn't something that was discussed in my household growing up. Finances just weren't discussed. And so by the end of that freshman year, I was in credit card debt, a mobile gas card, didn't have a car, unbelievable. But I digress. I say all of that to say that credit card debt is something that can start early and can hamper you for a very long time. So when it comes to specifically credit card debt, you don't want to try and pay it down. You want to establish a plan to pay it off. And in the meantime, while you're paying it off, you have to change your mindset so that you don't continue to add to it. So many of us, yeah, we pay down the credit card debt, but we keep adding to it by purchasing things that we don't necessarily need at that particular period in time. So part of a financial plan is obviously eliminating that debt, but how do we go about eliminating the credit card debt? And also, how do we go about doing the second thing called establishing an emergency savings plan? I'm going to show you in a minute one of the things that I did personally to add extra money, extra, into my budget. But I wanted to look at this aspect as well. Prior to January of this year, if I were to ask many people, especially here in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, what is the most secure job that you can have in the United States? In this area in particular, we probably would have said being a federal employee. But as we have seen since the new administration has taken over, federal employment has become very much like private sector employment. You're an at will employee. You can be asked to leave without any reason at any time whatsoever, the same way that you can actually voluntarily leave as well. But the thing is, the unexpected can happen at any point in time. Many of us are just 2 to 3 paychecks away from being homeless. That's a fact. And so, this emergency savings fund is something that you'll hear about periodically, but it's not really focused on, but it is crucial. So, many on this call know exactly what I'm talking about in terms of uncertainty with employment, especially federal employment. If you don't have some kind of emergency savings to create a buffer to help you during that period of financial crisis, if you will, so that you don't have to go deeper into credit card debt, you have to actually do that. And if you were to utilize some of the AI resources that exist, Google, Chat, GPT, it still will list an ideal amount as 6 to 9 months of monthly expenses. Don't pay attention to that. This is one thing that I'm going to tell you specifically. Your goal is to have at least 12 months of monthly expenses in emergency savings because it may take you quite some time to get another position. So you're not going to be able to just pull that money out of your pocket, but changing your budget and reducing your expenses to put more towards that emergency savings is critical. So the goal now in the year 2025 is to have at least 12 months worth of household expenses to cover those unexpected events. And I mentioned before, one of the ways that you can actually uncover some additional assets is by identifying those unnecessary expenses that you may have. I'll use myself as an example here. I had the full package for Verizon Fios. I mean, every conceivable channel you could think of. But I also noticed that I had every streaming service as well, from Hulu to this to that. Some of the streaming services that I had were actually offering the same channels that my Verizon cable was offering, and that was over $300 a month. So what I did was I started consolidating. I started getting rid of what I didn't need. Needed internet, yes, but did I need this full package cable that was costing almost $400 a month? No, because I had other alternatives that were costing just a fraction of what that amount was. At the end of the day, I ended up uncovering about $400, $400 in unnecessary expenses that I was able to eliminate. That $400 I was able to actually steer towards even my own emergency savings. You can never have enough savings, but the great thing about savings is once you reach a certain point and you say, okay, I'm covered for a year. Now I can start looking at putting it towards investing. And that's where, that earning potential can increase. But one of the other things that I did after making so many mistakes in terms of credit card debt, I don't carry balances over anymore. There are those rare occasions where I have to for maybe a month or two, but I actually tend to not spend anything more on a credit card that I cannot pay off at the end of that billing cycle. So there's no finance charge involved. The credit score stays at a decent level. It's not really impacted by that. There are good ways and bad ways to use your credit. One just not long ago, I needed a new MacBook Pro. I like Mac for some reason. I needed a new one, and these things are like $2,000, but I have an Apple Card, and I was able to use my Apple Card to purchase that MacBook Pro, 0% interest, 12-month payments, and I paid that thing off in about 2 months. But that did not, even if it took me 12 months, there was no finance charge, so it would not have negatively impacted me. But that's those are some of the positive ways that you can utilize your credit without furthering yourself in deeper debt. One of my favorite um, financial vehicles, if you will, is life insurance. Now, I don't sell life insurance. I don't sell any insurance anymore, but I have maintained my life, health, accident insurance licenses in a multitude of different states for like the past 26 years. And even though I don't sell the product anymore, one of the reasons why I maintain those licenses is because it forces me to do my CE credits every other year, and I'm able to stay in tune with what's going on in the insurance industry. But any insurance product I love, life insurance, annuities, I love them all and I know how to use them all. But life insurance is a critical one because it's so incredibly flexible. As you can see, it is a cornerstone of a solid financial plan. Um, Back when I was meeting with clients and helping them to develop their plans, every single scenario involved some kind of an insurance product. And there are multitudes of different insurance or life insurance products. For those of us who are working in a corporate or governmental setting, through your employer, you most likely have a group life insurance policy, term policy, but a group policy nonetheless. It's a very small premium out of every paycheck. You can increase the amount up to a certain point without having to take a physical. So, for those who may not be in the best of physical condition, it's an ideal type of insurance to have. The only drawback to it is that if you are no longer with that employer, that insurance can go as well. Now, you normally do have the ability to convert it into an individual policy, but the cost tends to be outrageous. So, it's strongly suggested that in addition to the group policy, if you're in reasonable health, you should certainly consider establishing an individual policy outside of your employer because that is yours, regardless of whether you're working with that organization or not. That's your insurance policy. It will continue to remain in force. Two of the benefits of life insurance is that it can protect your loved ones. It can, if you are the primary breadwinner in your household, it can actually replace your income for a certain number of years and allow your family to maintain their quality of living. It can cover debt, so student loans, mortgages can be paid off depending on the death benefit and some other debts. Another key element to it is that you can use it for estate planning purposes and legacy, financial legacy purposes. So estate planning, oftentimes people think that, oh man, this guy had millions of dollars and he passed away, the family's set. Well, there are these things called federal estate taxes, which can be so overbearing that it will force a family to liquidate assets in order to pay the government estate taxes. So even the very wealthy utilize life insurance as a way of covering those estate taxes so they're not forced to liquidate. If anyone's ever watched the show Yellowstone, that was a big thing in that last season. The family almost had to liquidate that insane sized ranch, and the state taxes were a reason for that. But life insurance can be used to cover those estate taxes, keep the land, property, assets in the family. Another is from a inheritance standpoint or financial legacy standpoint. Another quick story. Because I'm in the Orient of the District of Columbia, I have the opportunity to accompany my deputy, Sovereign Grand Inspector General Eric F. Conahia, to many occasions and events that are sponsored by the Supreme Council, Southern Jurisdiction, Mother Council of the World. And I get to see how the freighters in that jurisdiction operate. And what was very interesting to me is that it is so common for those freighters to include the Supreme Council Southern Jurisdiction in their wills and also as beneficiaries on their life insurance. I never really thought about it. It seems rather obvious if you have a love for an organization. Many people will name an alma mater, they'll name a church, they'll name a variety of different organizations or entities as beneficiaries, but you can certainly name your Grand Lodge. You can name the USCSJ, United Supreme Council Southern Jurisdiction, as a beneficiary, not the beneficiary, a beneficiary. Um, you can name it as the beneficiary if you want to, but you can have as many beneficiaries on a life insurance policy as you want. You can dictate how much each beneficiary is going to receive. And it's a great way to actually leave something towards an organization that you believe strongly in. I was thinking about it just a few weeks ago. I thought, okay, you know what? We don't really do that very often. We don't talk about it really at all in Prince Hall Masonry. But what if 100 freighters were to designate $10,000 each as a death benefit to the United Supreme Council Southern Jurisdiction? That's $1 million that the USCSJ could receive as a benefit upon the death of those freighters. And it's certainly something to consider. It's something that I have actually worked into my own financial plan. And that's another thing, folks. Financial plans are not meant to be one and done. Oh yeah, I have it set up and now it is fluid. It's constantly changing. Things are constantly changing. And so I've already made the decision as to what I'm going to do in terms of leaving a legacy to certain organizations, and it's certainly worth considering. Um, another aspect of it that just kind of crossed my mind. With life insurance, unlike most any other asset, the beneficiary actually obtains the funds without having to pay federal and state income taxes on it. So, life insurance, very, very flexible. If you're a business owner and you have business partners, life insurance is often used to fund buy-sell agreements. So, oftentimes, if you have a small business and one of the partners pass away, the assets in the life insurance policy can be used to pay that deceased partner's family that that individual share of the business. So the business can continue on with the remaining living partners, and the family of the deceased partner receive their just due via the proceeds from a life insurance policy. So uh, as you can tell, a very flexible entity. I'm actually in the process right now of getting a new individual policy, and you can have multiple policies. It's a lot of, I won't go any further into it, but let's just say you could spend several hours with a financial person just talking about different utilizations of life insurance policies, having a certain amount in term life, having a certain amount in permanent or whole life or universal life coverage, but very, very flexible. So when you're looking at the just setting up a financial plan in general, the debt has got that credit card debt. I just can't stress enough how much of a negative impact that can be, especially if you have late payments. Student loans are not necessarily considered to be a bad debt unless you're defaulting on it. So, but credit cards, your credit score will do some real funky things if you do not keep the utilization of your credit in check. It's to the point where in certain industries, my industry in particular, they do credit checks before you're hired. And so if your credit score is not where they deem they want it to be, you're not going to be offered that job. So these are things to, take into consideration, can really have a detrimental impact on you overall. I know that was quick, but like I said, I wanted to focus on some key areas. So when you're developing your financial plan, you have to make sure that you're keeping in mind the flexibility of it. um, a financial plan is not just about the numbers, it's about making sure that your money is aligned with your life. And it can change. You can change it up without any hesitation. One other thing I wanted to make mention of, for those who have never met with a financial professional and you don't know where to start, I often suggest to folks, and I just recently suggested to a brother, start with whoever is handling your retirement plan. So, thrift savings, for example, I think that may be BlackRock who administers the thrift savings. If you work for General Motors, it's Fidelity Investments are the record keepers and managers for the 401k. So, whoever is managing your retirement plan, whatever organization that is, they have financial professionals that you're actually paying for through your various fees, that you don't even realize it, but they have financial professionals at the ready. They're licensed and registered, much like I am, and they can actually help you in establishing a financial plan, normally for no additional cost because that cost is already built in to the record keeping agreement. So that's the easiest way to really get started. As your needs become more complex, you may have to enlist the services of that organization's wealth management group because they can handle some things that are a little bit more intricate. But easiest way to get started in setting things up appropriately for a low cost or no cost whatsoever is to look at the organization that's managing your 401k, your TSP, your retirement portfolios. And Deputy Hampton, that concludes, and I am open for questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Outstanding job, outstanding presentation. Before I open the floor up for questions for Mr. Moultrie, um, Kevin, we do have one question that was in the inbox. Act, do do you recommend a key man policy?
It depends. Wow, that's really a broad one. So, depending on the business, that could be a very good policy. So if it depends on what you want to happen, what you want to see happen in the event of someone's passing. So I can't say yes or no. I can only say that I have seen the importance of it, and you certainly want to sit down with someone to get specifics on your situation to see if in fact that's something that would be ideal for you or for your organization.
Okay, thank you. Also, I see we have a Mr. Calvin Burke. He has his hands raised up, sir.
Calvin Burks, you're muted.
If possible, Mr. Croft, would you unmute Mr. Calvin Burke, please?
He should be good to go now.
Okay, Mr. Burke.
Yeah, he has to
Wow.
unmute himself.
Okay. Wow.
Okay, I'm here now. Hello.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
Go ahead
Yes,
with your question, sir.
just had a quick question. With the credit card debt, Is it feasible if you have a credit, a couple of credit cards that's kind of high, with a high interest rate? Is it recommended that borrowing money uh, with the lower interest rate to just pay off the credit cards?
Yes. So if you can actually eliminate those high interest cards and substitute that amount with a lower interest loan elsewhere, it would be recommended, but it's going to take some discipline on your part because you have to make sure that you, just as you wanted to pay off those credit card debts, you'd also want to pay off that lower interest loan and at the same time not add on to the credit card debt that you've just eliminated.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Callahan out of Tennessee, you have a question, sir?
I do. Outstanding presentation. The key question that I always have, and I wonder if you could touch on it or just give me your feedback on it. When it comes to developing the wealth mindset, it seems to be that we don't really normalize the conversation. So a lot of times it's uncomfortable for people to talk about money. It's part of the issue as I see. And a lot of times we don't think it applies to everyone. We think, if you're in a certain tax bracket, maybe, thinking about generational wealth or poverty, however you want to look at it, is of a concern. So do you have kind of an entryway or something that you've proven successful to have people have that conversation that no, it's for everybody, it's empowering for everyone. And it is something that really you need to start as soon as possible because time is your friend. Have you had experience with that? Thank you,
I
sir.
have. It's a great question, and thank you for bringing it up because it's definitely a cultural thing in the United States. African American families do not typically talk about finances at home, and so one of the things that I did, probably about 26 years ago, and I was traveling in upstate New York State, visiting various colleges, working with the employees and the presidents of those universities. Um, I noticed that there was no kind of a finance 101 curriculum at most institutions. And so I was able to actually have established at two specific colleges a intro to finances that freshmen had to actually take at those two schools. That was just the beginning because what I ended up doing as well is working with different school districts in New York to get them to incorporate finance into the elementary school division. So before these kids got to the fifth grade, just starting to talk about basic stuff, money in, money out, spending less than you're bringing in. It's almost like an arithmetic, basic addition, subtraction, multiplication type of ideology. But it outside of education, it has to also start at home. So you have to talk to our kids about finances and because they don't most of the time they don't have any clue. And so those are some of the things that I've done personally, but I do believe just as individuals, we have to make sure that we're talking to our young ones, even our grandchildren, about just finances. Here goes a dollar, baby. What are you going to do with it? No, no, you don't need to go out and buy candy. It's candy in the kitchen. Let's do something else with it. Showing them alternatives in terms of setting up accounts for them. A lot of companies, I work for Fidelity Investments. We have youth investment accounts where you can establish a brokerage account for a youth. Some of my colleagues have their 10-year-old kids with these youth accounts and they're investing and they're getting really a solid fund a foundation on things that our segment does not typically get exposed to. I don't
Thank
know
you.
if I answered your question, brother. I probably kind of went off
Thank
on a
you, sir.
tangent there. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. We also had another question from the inbox of, from your expertise, Will lump sum payments of multiple payments a month affect credit score best for payments on credit cards?
Okay. I need to have that one repeated to me again.
Okay, no problem. It says from your expertise,
Mhm.
would lump sum payments or multiple payments that's made a month affect your credit score best for payments on credit card? Basically, I'm guessing they're asking if you made lump sum payments or multiple payments a month. If you was, say for instance, your credit card minimum balance was $260 and you paid $580, would that best help your credit score by doing it?
Yeah, I got you. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy. So credit cards are a funny entity because if you haven't paid by the due date, and let's say you have a balance of $1,000 and you pay $500 by the due date, and then you decide to pay another 500 2 weeks later, well, that's not going to really be to your advantage because they have already assessed a finance charge to you. So you're what I say is pay as much as you possibly can by the due date. And if you have more to pay right after that, wait until the next one because you're going to be assessed a finance charge anyway. So, to answer that question, accelerating the number of payments that you make to a credit card isn't really, it sounds good, but it's still not helping with that finance charge. They're still going to put that on you. Even if you pay 12 hours after the due date, you pay an extra amount. It really, you could have just waited a whole month later and accumulated more assets to put towards the next payment.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any more questions for Mr. Moultrie? Because he has done an outstanding presentation for us on tonight. Do we have any more questions?
Yes, I do have a question if it's okay for me to speak.
Yes, sir.
All right. First of all, peace and blessings to all the brethren and the sister in the chat. Peace and blessings to everybody. My name is Freddie Shaw, class of 2025. This is one of my favorite subjects. I'm so glad that you decided to do this. It's one of my favorite subjects of finances. I've been an investor for about, I want to say 11 years now. I started off with Charles Schwab, and shortly after that, I got introduced to Fidelity. So I've been purchasing my own ETFs, and which is exchange trade trust funds or trade funds, excuse me, and also mutual funds. So I've been doing this all on my own for at least about 11 years, and been successful at it too. I come from a family that was predominantly all entrepreneurs, believe it or not. So everybody in the house, my household own a business, and I watch how they manage their money. So they pretty much taught me that a little bit. I had, of course, throughout the course of time, I had to learn and make my own mistakes. But the beautiful part about it is I watched the results of them and how it worked for them. And I've seen some success and I've seen some failures. And this is a beautiful subject for sure to teach your children and all of that. So I just wanted to make that statement. But my question is this about trust. We know that an insurance policy is a trust, right? It's a form of a trust. But what about the other styles of trust, such as like let's say a charity trust,
Mhm.
a legacy trust? So because of the lack of education pertaining to trust, a lot of times people get screwed over, right? And the reason why is because they really don't do the real research on what particular, because there's a different kind of trust for each certain thing. And a lot of people get lazy at this point where they just leave it up to the lawyers and stuff like that. So my question to you is this, pertaining to the certain kind, can you name like the main trust? Like there's plenty of there, but can you name like 5 that's like commonly used, that's most commonly used? And if you have any information pertaining to what's the best way to make sure that we enter into those trusts the proper way. I hope that I'm saying this right where you can understand it, into these particular trusts. So I'm asking you to name the 5 main trusts that's normally used, and how could we enter in? What is the process? What is the step from one to just getting everything set up and then maintaining it after that? Are you able to share that information?
Yeah, well, I am not explicitly able to share that because I'm not a trust expert, and trusts are one of those things where I know a lot of folks don't like to necessarily utilize lawyers, but trust can be so intricate. I've seen everything from the John Doe irrevocable living trust to the Jane Doe revocable living trust. They have life insurance trust. I actually encourage people, unless you're really going to dig deep into the research yourself, they have some terrific estate planning attorneys who can really direct you into what is the most appropriate type of trust for you. So, brother, I wouldn't even venture to start to name some different ones because that is where I rely on my estate planning attorney business partners for sure.
Thank you so much, Mr. Murtry. Anybody else got any questions for Mr. Murtry?
Yes, this is Cynthia Turner from Richard Howard Gleaves, DC. I have a question in regards to your the home. In regards to you, I found out that I have two homes, and I found out one of my homes, it has enough funds to pay my house off. Should I use the equity that is showing in the home to pay it off, or should I use maybe a portion of that and still make a mortgage payment?
Yeah, Cynthia, that's actually a great question, and that one would really come down to whether the home that you're looking to pay off is your forever home. If you have an inclination that you may actually relocate at some point to that other home, question becomes, well, why would you even want to pay off that one? So it really comes down to a personal thing where, all right, if you're in your forever home, it may or may not make sense because interest rates are going to play a part. So in order for you to get that equity, you're going to have to refi and you're going to have to extract that equity from it. And is it worth actually doing that? So you're going to have to look at the numbers and you may decide when you may decide when it's all over, you want to go to the land of enchantment where Deputy Mitchell's at and hang out in New Mexico. So it really would come down to what your plans are and also how the numbers are going to work out. Interest rates right now are not that great in terms of mortgage and refi. So it may not make sense right now to do that because of that reason alone.
Or would it be better to place that particular home? I'm in the process of actually looking at doing a trust.
Mhm.
Would it be better to place that particular home in a trust and not use the equity that's in there?
Yeah, so for the trust, once again, I think you would want to confer with an estate planning attorney. Many of my friends who are self-employed, their everything is in the name of their LLC or a trust. They don't have anything under their own name. And that gets so technical that I really think you would want to sit down with someone to see what would make sense for your specific situation there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to take a few more questions. One thing, just let everybody know who's on this webinar tonight. This is a topic of discussion that's very needed. And our sovereign grand commander is on tonight, and it may be something that he may in the future may want to do a part two to. So if all your questions are not answered tonight, feel free to put them in the chat. And also, please also know that this particular recording will be on the Sovereign Grand Commander's Facebook page as well as United Supreme Council. Do we have any more questions for Mr. Moultrie before we hear from our Sovereign Grand Commander? Any more questions? Again, outstanding presentation. We'd like to thank everybody for being on tonight. Before we bring our Sovereign Grand Commander, going to ask is any of the deputies from the various organs would like to chime in, have a question, or just want to state comments before we bring our Sovereign Grand Commander for final comments.
Deputy Hampton. Deputy Hampton, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's Deputy Mitchell from the land of enchantment. Brother, I just wanted to say that this was a great presentation. It touched on some very important points. You know, a few years ago, I was trying to figure out where all my money was going. Yeah, it wasn't just going to traveling to different locations. And what I discovered was that I had so many of these store credit cards that my wife was using. Once I convinced her that we would pay off all those and just have one card, it changed my whole financial base. So think about that. If you're paying multiple credit cards, you don't need all of them. One card will suffice. Thank you, sir. And again, an outstanding presentation and a much needed one.
Hey, Deputy Hampton.
Yes, sir.
SGIG great for Deputy Irby. I just want to say great class. He had to go to another appointment. I want to thank everybody from Texas that was on. Again, great class.
Thank you, sir.
Deputy Hampton. Deputy Hampton.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I want to thank Kevin for coming on tonight. Great presentation as always. Full of information. You're not going to get it all in one presentation, but he's full of a plethora of information. As a matter of fact, I tweak some of my finances through him when I go to my financial planning sessions as well. So he is a wealth of information, and I'm glad that he had the opportunity to present his expertise. I want to thank all of the members of the Order of District of Columbia for supporting him tonight as we continue to do the work of the Supreme Council by building right stone by stone. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Hampton, Deputy Willis from Missouri. I just wanted to say good evening to everyone and the presenter. Much needed topic. Very good information that was shared. And I want to thank all the freighters and members and just people from the Orient of Missouri for coming on tonight. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Deputy,
you.
Deputy Mallet from the Orient Middle East. Great presentation, outstanding job. Just want to thank all the freighters and the members from the Orient Middle East for logging in tonight. Thank you.
We had a great presentation tonight. This is Deputy Brown from the Orient of Arkansas. The chat was very live tonight, and it had some great offshoot information that spurred from the information that was being presented by illustrious Moultrie. And one of those offshoots was that when it relates to credit card debt, one of the gentlemen said that he pays attention to his finance charges, and whenever he makes a payment, he pays not only the due amount, but also the additional amount of the finance charge so that his entire payment goes to the balance. And I don't know if a lot of people are aware of that, but that is actually a great way to handle credit and manage credit card debt. And so, but all of the information that illustrious Moultrie presented tonight was awesome. And I'm pretty sure that our finances are going to be in better hands after this. One of the other things that I like to point out that I love when he illustrated the information about his interaction with those freighters from the Mother Supreme Council of the World. If we got more of our freighters and law ladies to really look at making this United Supreme Council a beneficiary, a portion of their funds from their life insurance, I am of the mindset that things will change for the better. And so I want to take the time to thank all of our freighters and law ladies. I believe it was over 13, 12 or 13, including our Deputy Grand Master was on tonight. So we thank all of you for coming on, supporting the Sovereign Grand Commanders webinar series. And again, awesome job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Deputy Jackson, Deputy Hampton.
Yes, sir.
Excellent presentation. We can never we can never get enough knowledge about finances or whatever. One of the things I've learned early in life is there's two things they don't teach you in school, and one is how to have a good marriage, and the other is how to manage your money. You don't get that in school. And so anytime we can talk about money and how to make our people have better financial decisions, I think it's beneficial. So I want to thank the presenter for giving that information. Look forward to getting more information like this in the future. I also want to thank those 18 people from Tennessee who are on this call tonight. Thank you for your participation, and thank the Sovereign for putting on these quarterly webinars. They're always informational, and we really enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any more deputies? Any more deputies? Before I go to our Sovereign Grand Commander, I'd just like to recognize we do have some members of the Council of Administration that are on. I do see our Grand Auditor General that's on tonight. I don't know, would he like to have words? All right. Well, again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming on tonight. These webinars, on behalf of the Sovereign Grand Commander Webinar Committee, just let everybody know these webinars is for the public, not just to those who are members of the Scottish Rite, but also to those of the public. So each quarter, please forward that information. Now, I would like to present our Sovereign Grand Commander, Dr. Cordy Hawkins Sr., Esquire.
Good evening and happy Sunday to all. I'm a firm believer in being able to get a lot done in a short period of time, and I think we've accomplished that tonight. Illustrious Moultrie, job well done, outstanding informational seminar given tonight. And that is the purpose for the Sovereign Grand Commanders webinars, is to distribute information to our membership as well as to others to assist us in being able to have a better way of life. I too, probably like most of us on this webinar tonight, my household, when I was growing up, you really didn't talk much about finances. So, and Illustrious Jackson said it, they don't teach you much about it in school as well. So it's something that you kind of have to learn as you go along. Illustrious Moultrie, I, like you, went to college, got several credit cards, didn't need any of them. But those applications are out there all over the place on college campuses, especially in the student center. And it's so easy to get. That's one of the first things I told my kids when I sent them out to school is stay away from the credit cards because they're nothing but traps, especially for young individuals who, if they are working in college, they're not making a lot of money. So one of the things that I did was I attached my kids to my credit card. So they have a card themselves, but it goes to my bill. And it kind of serves a two-pronged purpose. I know what they're spending, what they're buying, and it's not messing up their credit before they even get started in life. So, and I do believe in paying off your credit cards if you can afford to each month, so that you won't get caught up with those high finance charges and things of that nature. I rarely carry cash, and I use my credit card pretty much for everything. But at the end of the month, I make sure I pay it off so that I can stay on top of my finances and my credit score. So great information. We do need to have a part two because I think there's several other questions out there that can be asked. And Illustrious Moultrie has expertise in this field where he can answer many of them. But at the same time, some of those questions that he may not be able to answer, It does not hurt to have an estate planning attorney that you go to get some of your questions answered, and financial planner as well, because again, this is something that we have not been privy to, and this is the type of information that we need so that we can live happy lives and make sure our finances are taken care of, and that we not have to live from paycheck to paycheck. This seminar, along with many of our others that we've had, hopefully has shed some light on some of the things that we do need to know about. And if we're not willing to help each other and educate each other on those areas where we have not received the education that we may need to have received, then who will do it for us? So thank you all for participating on tonight, and I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all next month in Memphis, Tennessee at our 139th annual session, and looking forward to many, many more webinars like this that we had upcoming on the Sovereign Grand Commanders webinar series. Thank you. Thanks to the committee, Illustrious Hampton, you and your committee, job well done. And I was scrolling through, and it looks like DC pretty much took over this webinar tonight. I see you, Illustrious Deputy Conahia. So thank you for your participation. Thanks to all the Orients for your participation, and we look forward to working together to better ourselves as well as the organization. And Illustrious Moultrie, I also thank you for putting the pitch in for the Supreme Council. You know, let's just be honest about it. We don't have the type money that the Southern Jurisdiction, Mother Supreme Council of the world has, but every little bit helps. Was just at their session, I think it was last month. They had an individual who passed away that left them $900,000. You know, he stated earlier, what if we just had 10 people leave us $10,000? So it does help out, and it goes to a good cause. Was just at the Northern Masonic jurisdiction session last month as well. They had an individual just in their local valley for the upkeep of their building left the local valley $1 million. So we have to think ahead. We don't want to talk about death, but you're not going to avoid it. Just as sure as we're born, we're going to die. And those are the type of conversations that we need to have and plan for, so that you don't leave your family in a bad situation, having to start a GoFundMe page just to bury you, you know, or family fighting over, you know, what's not a whole lot, and end up, by the time it's over and through probate court and you got attorneys involved, members of the family walk away with very little. So let's be proactive rather than reactive, and let's do what we can to help better ourselves and each other. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Thank you, and may you all have a blessed night.